Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Grumpy Acres. Time for Tuesday Night Live with a little bit of question and answer and chat at the end of it. So, you'll notice I'm by my lonesome today. Angela left me. Not really. She had to work late. She kind of left me. She left me to go to a job. But so she had to work late, and so I'm doing this by myself until she gets home. I don't have any idea when she's going to get home. So you guys just kind of put up my pretty face instead of hers. All right. So I hope everybody had a good week. Let's see who all is in the chat so we can say hi to them. Terminator was first. Skanes girl, how you doing? Jane, brother Len. Hope everybody had a fantastic week. The big weather or the big topic around here this week is it was hot. It turned off hot, and I broke down, guys. I broke down, and I feel shameful for it, and I feel weak. I had to turn the air conditioner on Sunday because it was just miserably uncomfortable trying to sleep. And I don't know if it's just worse this year or not, but I was like, okay, we need some respite from this. So we turned the air conditioner on. So come probably some live update, Homestead update in July, you're going to hear me complaining very loudly about the electric bill because I can see it coming. Yeah, Jane says it was 107 there today. Well, it was only in the upper 80s, but it felt a lot higher today because it was wet. You know, we went from weather where when it was raining, it would cool off and it was a nice, refreshing rain to the last two that we've had. It's been warm and wet, really warm and wet. And in fact, it reminded me of being in Okinawa during the monsoon season because it was still hot and uncomfortable, and it would rain and everything would get wet, and it would be just as uncomfortable after it rained as it did before it rained. Terminator says 45 degrees Celsius with no AC still kicking. Dunked her head a few times. Yeah, you know, last year we got away with it. It's a little bit hotter here this year. What's up, Mr. Spags? It's a little bit hotter here earlier this year. Everybody I've talked to agrees with that, and the weather's just been brutal the past couple weeks. Now, as far as what it's doing for everything else, the stuff we've got growing is exploding. And I know I said I was going to get a video of where the garden plot's going to be and how it looks now versus the bamboo thing. Quite frankly, it needs to be mowed back a little bit. And I just didn't get time to do it this week. I went out and shot a video, and I was watching it. I was like, oh, that looks terrible. Everything's growing up. Still fighting the Johnson grass over there. So I will get it mowed this weekend, and I promise, as God is my witness, I promise I will get a video made so you guys can see it. The plants we've got out there, so I put pumpkins and zucchinis and all kinds of squash and all that. I put them in tires, and I spaced them far enough apart that if squash bugs came, they wouldn't be able to infest the plant next to it very easily. We're hoping that they grow and act as ground cover and kill off some of the grass for next year. But right now the grass is outpacing the vegetables and fruits out there, to be honest with you. Spent a lot of time this week just cleaning up and doing things around the property, you know, what little I could after coming home from work and surviving the heat and everything. I did start doing, if you guys have not heard of Nicole Sauces from Living Free in Tennessee, she does a thing called Garden 30. And it's where she goes out in the garden every day and does 30 minutes worth of work when it's nice and cool. And at a minimum, no matter what she's doing, she gets 30 minutes worth of work in. And for the past week, as long as it wasn't raining, I was out there in the garden for 30 minutes a day trying to get stuff done. And I did. I got quite a bit of stuff done. A lot of weeding. There's still a lot of seeds and stuff in the compost and all that. So gotta go take care of that on a regular basis. The plants are big enough now. We were having a problem with the chickens getting into the beds and that's been taken care of. The only problem I've had with anything getting in the bed this week was the little black lamb that we were bottle feeding. He likes running around with me when he's out, and he got into the bed tonight. So I had to yell at him and carry him back to where he belongs. And I got a cat trying to walk across the table. She's not supposed to. But so other than that, the garden's going good. The other big thing that we did this weekend, well, actually I did it. Angela was she brought lunch and everything. I held the first ever cheese making class, milk processing and cheese making class. And overall it went really well. So this class was for the basic core community, the inner circle type of people, and it was free. I am developing this class to be a paid class at some point, but I want to work out the kinks. You know what I mean? I want to make it so it runs nice and smooth and make sure I've got the schedule, everything. I'm going to hang on a second, guys. Get down. You're being a pain. Sorry about that. Cat was being a pain. So anyway, I'm developing this class to eventually be a paid class, but I got to work out the kinks. I got to get the pacing right, and I got to get all the information correct to make sure all the recipes work and timing and all that. And it went well. There were some hiccups. So the first hiccup I had, I went and got 8 gallons of milk, and as I'm coming home, one of them fell over and the lid wasn't on tight. So it sprayed all over the back seat. I lost like half a gallon of milk right there. Which is fine. It's cool. These things happen. So the next morning I went and set up Friday night, and I put the milk into a cooler so I could take it over there Friday and get in the refrigerator at the community building. But as I'm going over there, I left the drain open so that as the ice melted, it wouldn't put water in there. I get there and there's milk coming out the drain, and I open it up and 2 jars had broken. So I was like, argh. So I ended up having to clean up that mess, and I had to go buy a couple of things of store-bought milk, which, believe it or not, turned out to be a blessing. And I'm going to do that for all the classes, and I'll tell you why here in just a second. So anyway, I got it all set up, figured out how to run the stove and everything. They've got Tag bought a used commercial stove, had it refurbished. It's a really nice stove. It's a straight up restaurant stove. I went and picked it up from a restaurant that was going out of business in Westport in downtown Kansas City. Anyway, class was from 8 to 5 on Saturday. Not gonna lie, I was just a wee bit disappointed. Only 2 people, and then one of the spouses showed up later. He had to go do something, but only 2 people showed up for it. I was a little disappointed. I wanted to provide this class to more people so I could get it out in the community. But like I told Tag, I mean, we cannot force people to be involved and to take an active part in this learning. All right, we can't force people, and I say that understanding that sometimes I have not been at things that I probably should have been at because I had other things to do, or I just didn't want to go. So I was not. I'm a little disappointed, but I'm not upset at anybody about it. So anyway, we did the class, and instead of taking 8 hours like I thought, it only took 6 hours. And the reason it only took 6 hours is, number one, because there were only 2 people there. There was not as much discussion going on because it was very direct and only one question at a time and or to be answered, and it went really fast. Plus, the commercial stove, man, I'm telling you what, if you're ever doing anything like this and you have an opportunity to use a commercial stove, it makes heating stuff up so much quicker. Seriously, it was boiling, right? Not boiling. It didn't boil. But I got 3 gallons of milk up to 185 degrees in about 4 or 5 minutes. I mean, it was really quick, no scorching because I was able to stir it while it was going, but it makes it really, really easy and really quick. So the class. So it was about it's going to be about. It was about. It's going to be about milk processing and cheese making. So we talked about the different types of milk, and we talked about the different types of fats and where to procure your milk from. And I'm a big proponent of raw milk. Now, Tracy, the milk lady, and I were having some fun when I was picking up the milk, and we started talking about exactly how dangerous that milk was. How the federal government thinks that raw milk is so dangerous that they need to send armed law enforcement to shut down Amish farms that are selling raw milk. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. Kansas is actually pretty good about it. In fact, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I think it was. Hey, Sam, I miss Grateful Hearts too. Sam popped in and Grateful Hearts popped in. If I can get him right there. There it is. Hey, guys. So anyway, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, Kansas changed the law and made it so you can advertise raw milk. So there are 2 people that advertise it, and I don't know them. And then we've got 2 other sources that we're interact with on a regular basis. And I've got a 5th one that I am cultivating, and hopefully I can get them talked into selling their milk once they get established milking and everything. So I'm trying to build a network of raw milk suppliers here locally, so that we don't have to rely on the store. Because here's the deal about it. So getting raw milk, even though you're not producing it yourself on your farm or at your household, getting it from an individual versus a grocery store still gives you a great amount of freedom and security. You're not dependent on the supply chain. So we need to make sure that we're finding these things and we're cultivating these relationships. So anyway, back to about the class. So we learned how to make butter. We pulled the cream off the raw milk and made butter. Then we started making cheese curds, and while we were waiting for things to cool down for the cheese curds, we made some small batch homemade yogurt, which that reminds me, I've got to get it out. Mine's been cooking for 3 days now. It's going to be nice and tangy. It's good. I used Greek yogurt as the culture. That's another thing. That's another thing that went wrong this weekend. I was making some clabber, and if you don't know what clabber is, it's basically milk that you leave out on the counter that turns to a really thick yogurt type of consistency. Hey, Mississippi Homestead. Randy Pitts is in the house. He loves that raw milk. But so then we took a break for lunch and had a nice lunch. And I will say this about the venue, the community building there that Tag built and the community helped him with. It was about 95 degrees outside. Aussie Auntie Nettie, hey, from Australia. Welcome. Glad you could make it. Two of our most favorite homesteaders live down in Australia. But it stayed cool. It was 95 degrees. The wind was blowing really hard on Saturday. And when you went outside, it literally felt like you were standing in front of a blow dryer. That's how bad it was. It stayed really nice and cool in there. The fans were going. The only time it got hot was in the afternoon. We were running 2 burners constantly for about an hour and a half. And the little corner in the kitchen where the stove was got a little bit uncomfortable, but it was tolerable. So anyway, in the afternoon, we finished making our cheese curds, and we set them aside so that they could culture for the rest of the afternoon. And when we seasoned them, we used a homemade seasoning that one of the new community members made. Actually, he's not a new community member. He's a lifelong resident here, but he's just started getting in with the crew up here in Freedom Land. But he made a lamb rub for the Joel Salatin thing. That was awesome. And we used it on the cheese. In fact, I got some of the cheese curds still in there. We split it up at the end of the day. And turned out really good. It's getting better as it sits there a little bit longer. So anyway, after we finished the cheese curds, we made ricotta, and we did a test against each other. So we used the whey off of the cheese curds to make ricotta, and then we used a gallon of store-bought milk. And we did such a good job on the cheese curds getting all the whey protein out, or all the proteins out of the milk, that we did not get any ricotta. Very little, not enough to make it worth the effort. The store-bought milk, it was whole milk. Here's something to remember about whole milk you buy from the store. They call it whole milk, but it's not. It's actually milk that's had the cream removed, and it behaves completely different than raw milk whenever you use it. And so we made the ricotta. We got probably about half a cup out of it, but what was left after we made it was still very milky. And Angela made the comment. She said we should take that home and cook it again and see if we can't get more out of it. So I was like, okay, we'll do that. And there's a story. I'll tell you how that came up, because we did that yesterday. But anyway, we made the ricotta, and it tasted like ricotta cheese is supposed to taste. Unsalted. It was nice and smooth. And then we made paneer. And if you don't know what paneer is basically the same process of making ricotta, only using a lot more acid to curdle the milk. And we ended up with about half a pound of paneer. Used the paneer press, and I have no idea where it is. I put it away someplace. Yeah, straight from the cows. That's the best way to do it. Got to have it chilled, though. Got to have it chilled. I like my milk ice cold. But we made the paneer, and everybody liked it, and got done with the class, cleaned up, came home. I'll tell you what, guys. I am getting old. I knew Saturday night that I was getting older. I was reminded of it, I should say. So I was up on my feet all day long. I wore my barefoot shoes because I knew I was going to be up on my feet on a concrete floor. And I got home. We closed up shop around 4. I got home around 5 after cleaning up the community center. And I sat down, and my feet were just aching. Something fierce. Oh my gosh. And it didn't help. I'm emptying the truck when I get home, and I stepped on a rock right on my instep, where I'm pretty sure I've got a bone spur starting to develop, because it hurts from time to time. But so I could barely walk. And then I had to go out. I had to take the animals out on the pasture. And thank God there's a story there too. I'll tell you about putting them out on the pasture after the milk and cheese thing's done. So everybody liked the class. Everybody that was there liked the class. The Mrs. Hacks had actually made yogurt and cheese before, so she knew the process, but she said she learned something, and she shared her experience, and I was able to incorporate that. In fact, I made notes. I've got to redo the class a little bit so it incorporates some of the ideas. And the other person had never made it before, and I asked her when we were done, I said, do you feel comfortable? Do you think you can go home and do this? And she said, yes, I'm going to give it a try. So that really made me feel good. That's the whole goal of giving these classes, is to embolden people to take these steps and becoming more self-sufficient and food independent. So the milk, the leftovers from making the ricotta. So came home and ended up with 3 gallons of the milk, and it looked like really runny milk is what it looked like. So I threw it in a colander, or not a colander, but a pot, and heated it up, put some culture in it, and then hit it with acid. It did not curdle. Everything in the milk had already been curdled. But here's the thing about it. So I let it sit on the counter overnight, and then it thickened up a little bit, and I tasted it, and I was like, huh. And it had a familiar taste, almost like sour cream, but it was not sour cream. It did not taste like sour cream. And I had Angela taste it, and it turned out that what we had accidentally made is crema. And if you don't know what crema is, it's a very, very liquidy Mexican sour cream type of thing. It's got that sour cream taste to it. Just not quite as thick and not quite as tangy, but they use it all the time in Mexican food. And Angela's used it before, so she started telling me about it. And it blew my mind when I was putting it. I put it into a bunch of jars because she's going to use it to make some stuff. Put it in the refrigerator. Hopefully, cross our fingers. You know, the one bad thing about fresh stuff is it does not last as long. Does not last as long. And so we're hoping that it lasts long enough that she can make some good dishes out of it. Stay down. Stay down. Hey, Bonnie Blue. Yes, Skeins is a big cheese girl. She loves her cheese. I think she's from Wisconsin as much as she likes that cheese. So that's the ins and outs of the cheese class. I hope going forward, I'm going to do one more class for free, and I'm going to open it up to the general community, like our larger circle, so that anybody that wants to come can come. It's optimized for 6 to 8 people, but I can do more. If we're in the community center and nobody's paying for it, I don't have a problem with more people being there. It won't be the same, but it'll work, and it'll help me become better at teaching the class. And yes, I use the word teach. Anybody that's new here, I try not to use the word teach in most circumstances, because when you use the word teach, it creates a student-teacher relationship, and you may run into somebody that knows more about the topic than you do. So we like sharing our experiences. That's the way we say it. Now, in this case, I use the word teach for one simple reason, because eventually people are going to pay me to give this class, and when they are paying me, they are paying for a student-teacher relationship. So that's why I use the word teach there. But so I'm going to do one more class where it's going to be free, and then after that, I've kind of got the pricing figured out. One thing I did learn this weekend is giving this class at a festival in a austere setting may be too hard to do. I've got to do some more thinking on it, because the basic need that is hard to fulfill at these festivals is I need a good, constant source of water to wash things with, to sanitize. There you go, Starlet. Cremation fresco. Yeah, Angela just calls it crema. That Tijuana slang. And it's good. It's delicious. It is delicious. But eventually, you know, I've got pricing options from $100 per person for each class up to $300. And the $300 class, you get $100 worth of take-home stuff, and you can go home right after the class and basically make cheese. Seriously, that's what the take-home stuff is. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. Now, I told you I was going to tell you about the animals going out on pasture. You know, that if you guys missed it, I did a short the other day where the baby turkeys, they moved outside. They are out in the run behind the smaller coop, and they're loving it. I wish I had my phone yesterday, because it was funny as all get out. I put part of a dog kennel in there so that they could get out of the sun and out of the rain if they wanted to, which they don't. They have not been in there once. But what they have been doing with it is they'll jump on top of it, and then they take turns jumping off and flapping their wings across the pen. And then they jump back up there. So I watched them do that when I was out with the animals the other night for about 5-10 minutes. And it was funny, but I didn't have my phone with me, so I couldn't get any footage of it. So putting the animals out on pasture. I've talked about this before. You know, it's something I do in the summertime. We don't have the fencing up. So I've got to be out there, and I've got to babysit him. I've been getting some help though, and it's really cool. So Dolly, I've been working with her, and she's getting better and better and better about keeping the animals in line. In fact, a couple of times, if I'm not paying attention enough, she'll go put them where they're supposed to be without me saying anything. You know, and I make sure to let her know she's a good girl. Freya, I've been trying to work Freya in. She is not good at it yet, and she does not like the whip. So anytime I use the whip, she completely freaks out and runs away. In fact, tonight I had her out with us before we came in for the live, and I had her on a leash so she couldn't go chasing the animals like she does. And I cracked the whip, and she freaked out, busted out of her collar, and ran up to the house. She did that twice. So I've got to figure out how to work with her to get her not afraid of the whip. And I don't have any idea why she's terrified of the whip, but she is. But Dolly's doing a great job. She will go out there. I cut around the field so there's a boundary that she knows, and I cut across the field too. So there's like a mowed strip across the middle of the field over on the west side. And if I tell her to push them back, she will push them back from those boundaries. And she relishes it. She's having a ball out there. She goes out there and chases them back, and I call her, and she comes down and sits by me, and I tell her she's a good girl, and it's awesome. And then the baby sheep, he moved out of the house last week, and he's living outside now full time. Hey, All American. But whenever we're doing the animals outside, excuse me, on pasture, he hangs out with us. And he's slowly becoming a sheep, but he still thinks he's a sheepdog sometimes. Because when Dolly goes chasing after him and he's paying attention, he goes right with her, you know. But it's good. I mean, well, it's good up to a point. He's getting to the point now where if he wants your attention, he will headbutt you for it. And I got to keep an eye on him when he's doing that. And that's my big fear. When he gets older, I'm afraid it's a bad habit he's getting into, and I'm not quite sure how to break him of it. The good news about him getting older, though, pretty sure we found him a home, and it's a good home. It's a really good home. Hey, get down. Well, Angela just got home. Dogs are, of course, she got to the door. She's opening the door, and then they start barking. So they're a terrible watchdogs. Hey, Alistair. What's up? How was your day? Good. She looks tired, guys. You can come say hi. What is this? Those are my shorts. I had to buy new shorts because my other ones, the zipper on them popped, and I ripped a hole in them when I was out working the other day. So I had to buy some new shorts. But you know, so it's all going good around here, guys. We're making progress on the property. We're doing more and more homesteading type of stuff every week. It gets a little bit better and a little bit better. We're working on getting out of debt again for the third time. I'm telling you guys, getting out of debt's easy. Seriously, if you are motivated, it's very easy to get out of debt. All it takes is motivation and discipline. The hard part's staying out of debt because life happens, and you know your emergency fund gets eaten up by different emergencies, and then you have an emergency where you end up having with car payment for the first time in 21 years for a car payment. Aussie Antinetti says, sounds like a typical Patty Lamb, full of attitude. Yes, he's got some attitude. And I'll tell you what, he is going to be a big boy. He's going to be a big boy. Baby boy. But yeah, so, you know, if you fall, like I said last week, if you fall into having problems with money, you know, don't let it get you down. You can always get out from underneath it. There's always a way out. God has a tendency to not give us more than we can handle. We may not think we can handle it, but we can. Oh, goodness gracious. So what else went on around here? We did that. We planted sweet potatoes last night. Angela came out and helped me plant the sweet potato slips last night, and watered them a little bit. That was really nice too. I was able to use the new spigot that we put in by the outbuilding, so I didn't have to carry water 150 yards to get it to the garden when I did that. And I could have put a hose to it. I just didn't want to. I didn't feel like hooking a hose up. But I did take the opportunity last night to put all the quick connects on. So the next time I want to use that spigot, I just quick connect the hose to the other end of it, and off it goes. Let's see here. Lynn says he likes some debt, that kind that pays for itself, mortgages or on rentals, etc. No debt that doesn't pay for itself. Yeah, unfortunately, all of our debt is the type that doesn't pay for itself, and we are, even with me complaining about it, we are better off than about 99% of the country as far as debt goes. Seriously. If you look at the numbers, something like 50% of all households don't have an emergency fund, a 30-day emergency fund, and are living solely paycheck to paycheck, and that's not sustainable. That is not sustainable in the least bit. And part of preparedness, part of being prepared is being financially prepared. Quite honestly, with the emergencies we've had over the last 3 years, had we not built up an emergency fund, had we not positioned ourselves to have some extra cash when we sold that house in Pleasant Hill, we would have been in very dire straits. In fact, we would have been in a much worse position than we are right now. Randy says, one truck payment and a tractor payment. Going to be out of debt soon. Yep. That's what we're looking at. If everything goes well, it's only going to be about 18 months, and we're back to doing really well. Utah Mike says prepping is his number one prep, or financial prepping is number one prep. Yep. And here's the deal about it. Here's the deal about it. And this is a Dave Ramsey thing. If you don't listen to Dave Ramsey, I highly recommend him. He's kind of dogmatic on some things, but he's got a good program. But being out of debt, the borrower is slave to the lender is his big thing, and it's absolutely true, because you have to cotton to where you have to do what they want. Lynn doesn't like autocorrect, guys. The dependent workforce is needed. Yeah, financial literacy isn't taught in schools for a reason. A dependent workforce is needed, absolutely. Because if you have the ability to walk away from your job, or walk away from the government dependencies that they force on people, they can't control you. And that, if you look, and it's going on even now, even though Trump's in charge, you could see it. You could see it during the Biden administration. They want people dependent. Pleasant Hills, Australia is about an hour from our farm. No, we're about 2 hours from our Pleasant Hill. We miss it. We like the people here, but we still miss it. Bonnie says health prepping is number one right now. That should be, that should stem some financial bleeding in the future. Absolutely. That wreck, that one of our debts right now is as a result of that wreck back in November, medical bill. And so we're dealing with that. And we just paid off my medical bills from last fall. I have to go in every year and get a stress test done, and it cost about $1,000 out of my pocket, because the health industry sucks. Let's just put it that way. But we'll get there. We will get there. It's not anything that's insurmountable. Utah Mike, it's not the school's responsibility to teach financial responsibility. That's the parents' responsibility. Yes, that is a true statement. If you remember correctly, though, the schools, at least when I was younger, home ec, they don't teach home ec classes anymore. And the schools that do have home ec, are not the same as they were when I was a kid. Home ec, when I was in the 70s and 80s, financial household planning was a huge part of the curriculum, and they don't teach that stuff anymore. And were they teaching that when our kids were in high school?
Yeah, Dave Ramsey's.
Oh, that's right.
Thing was mandatory to graduate.
That's right. The school district that our kids graduated from, the Dave Ramsey was the youth financial university, or was mandatory in the school district to graduate. So I guess it was. You can hop in here. You want to say hi to everybody?
You want to do it without me? You can.
No. Jump in here. Look who's here. Doesn't she look tired? Rough day?
Huh?
Rough day? Just long? Just long. I know how that goes.
It was a mess today.
Schedule's
all thrown off.
Finance like nutrition hasn't been taught for generations. Parents can't teach what they don't know. Well, this is,
apples don't tend to fall very far from the tree.
Again, that is a true statement. I will say this, though. In the modern era, not knowing something, at least to be conversational on the topic, is no longer an excuse, especially in America. We live in the greatest country in the world, and you can get on YouTube or on the internet and find out anything about anything you want to know. Seriously, especially things as simple as financial smarts. There's no excuse for not knowing, as far as I'm concerned. Schools should stack functions that bear both financial literacy along with math. Most cannot even do basic math today. Well, this is true. I think they did a study, and something like 56% of the American population reads at a sixth grade level or less. How sad is that?
Now they put phones in their hands and spell for them.
That's right. Luckily, I had a great father-in-law that taught me financial importance. Yep.
Nice.
Good. It's good. Again, Utah Mike brings up a point. I said this in the live last Tuesday, and I said it during the last episode of the Prepper Homesteading Continuum. Men in the preparedness community need to step up, and we need to start mentoring young men in the community and teaching them the responsibilities that come with becoming a man, growing up. And financial responsibilities are something that needs to be taught. And if the family's not doing it, then we need to do it for them. Just step up there. Cat, stay off the thing. But so it is what it is. We do the best we can. Share our experiences where we can. Part of my mentoring is providing at least one young man in the community. I hope to get more, providing them an opportunity to make some money so that they've got money to be financially responsible with. What, you okay? Want to say something?
Mm-mm.
Get off the table and kill the cat. You guys are going to see one of the ways to kill a cat here pretty soon, because she keeps crawling up on the table like she's not supposed to.
I'm like eaten alive.
From what?
The dogs. It's terrible.
Bringing critters in. And you were out in the grass with me last night, so there's a bunch of stuff to get out. There's a bunch of stuff out there. Oh, she didn't like that. I popped her on her forehead. Now she's down there pouting. Well, if only you knew somebody that made comfrey salve to put on that to make it.
I need his dogs to stay out of my bed.
Well, that ain't gonna happen because they love you. They love their mama, and if they're not bothering her, they're bothering me. So what do you think of the cheese class? What little you saw?
It was good.
Just good.
No, I mean, it was a good class. It needs to be done differently. Like that setup wasn't ideal for it. More people, it would have been a disaster.
No, it wouldn't. No,
In that setup, it would have.
I don't think so.
Yeah, because you needed cameras. You needed cameras in there. Cameras need to be in there, and they need to be projected on the screens.
No,
so that everybody can see.
Eventually, maybe we'll do that.
Well, I think we'll do that in our processing kitchen.
Oh yeah,
I thought
definitely.
That was an excellent
Definitely.
idea.
All right, Randy's taking off because 3 a.m. comes way too early.
Yeah. What time is that?
Oh man. Oh, okay. So I went over the class. I went over the garden. I went over the animals. What else happened around here?
That's really it.
That's really it. I clip.
Had a chicken hatch out of nowhere.
Do what?
Had a chicken hatch out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, we had one lone chicken, that tiny thing. She was really tiny. She's doing well. Yeah. She's in with the older chicks, and she's doing well. Bobby has an idea for the cameras and stuff. I think that's what the idea is for. I hope it is. If not, I have no idea what he's talking about. Of course, you know what it is. It is Spags, so sometimes
it's full of ideas.
Well, sometimes people have no idea what he's talking about too.
Oh, anyway, man, are my eyes that bad or am I blurry? No, that's supposed to be that bad.
No, it's a little. The video's a little grainy.
It's terrible. So.
Oh, I'm hating on him now. I offended him. Bobby is offended.
I don't think you can offend Bobby.
No, I don't think he wants to know how you're feeling.
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing okay. I'm sore today. The rain will do that to me. And then when I was coming out of a building, I got a little concerned. I was going down kind of like a alleyway type deal. It's not really an alleyway, but it's between, it's kind of an alleyway. Anyway, I was going through there and somebody had said something behind me and it startled me a little bit. So I turned, and then of course, I needed to make sure the door was locked and done behind me. So I turned too fast. And so my neck is kind of not good, but other than that, I'll survive.
Well, thank you, Utah Mike. Like that, you know what? It's kind of scary that the people here are your kind of people, because it means that you're just a little bit off a center, or
a little bit.
What is it? Half a bubble off plum, as one of the greatest YouTube names says.
Mm-hmm.
No, welcome. We hope you enjoy it here. We try to talk about. We try to talk about homesteading stuff and all the moving parts of liberty, and teaching people how to be independent and building community, and all the hard work that makes it worthwhile.
Did you see my Malabar spinach?
Yes, I'm the one that planted it, and I'm the one that's getting it to grow. I love it. If you guys don't know what Malabar spinach is, explain what it is. Malabar
spinach actually vines. It goes up, and so it's actually really good. And so Tamara brought me some Malabar spinach, and so we got those planted and put them in, and they're doing wonderful. They're loving it outside. And the nice thing is, when it's done out there, we have it in a large mineral bucket, and so when it's done out there, then I can bring it inside, and it, as long as you water it, it stays alive.
Yep.
So,
well, and we were watering it when it was in here before.
I just didn't think I had enough sun on it. It was in the wrong spot, and it kept getting moved and touched and all that.
Falling into the sink.
So yeah, there's only so much.
Yes, help me beat the Iranians. Oh, we're going to talk about that tonight, because here, actually, since Bobby brought it up. So I've known Iranians throughout my life. I went to school with some kids whose parents escaped Iran during the revolution. In fact, I remember one time in 1981, the school went on lockdown because the FBI showed up because there was a Iranian hit out on the kid's dad and the family. So they wanted to make sure that the son was safe. So they took him away for a little while. Then I've known some more. When I was in the Marine Corps, I met one or two guys that were Iranian descent, and then when we were in the Persian Gulf, met some Iranian sailors that were on a Liberian flagged ship. I think it was. It may have been Turkey. I don't know, but it wasn't. It was not an Iranian ship. But these guys were Iranian sailors, and they invited us onto the ship to tour the ship and sit down and have some tea with them. And it was a very interesting experience. Nice guys. All the Iranians I've met personally were just people like us. And one of the things it struck me is there's a lot of talk about beating the Iranians, and we need to make sure that we're differentiating between the Iranian people and the regime and the people that support the regime, because it's two separate things. It's just like the patriots here in America that want a constitutional republic reinstalled. They want their freedom back, and they, if you look at it, they have been oppressed for the last 30 years. They've been indoctrinated. 100,000 children, or no, I'm sorry, 20,000 children killed because they indoctrinated them into doing suicide missions during the Iran-Iraq war. So we need to make sure whenever we're talking about it that we're differentiating and we're not lumping the people into the same group. Bobby says that about Iraqis. Iranians equal Iraqis. I don't know. The Persians are a little bit different. The ones that I've met have been a little bit different than the Iraqis. And maybe it's just the culture of the country. Maybe that's the difference. Iranians are great. Oh, greater than. See, math is hard, Bobby. Math is hard.
If you had your glasses on.
Yeah. It's the greater than symbol. Okay. Well, I see that now. Now that you say it, I see it. It doesn't look like an equal sign. But yeah, so and as far as what's going on, we need to. So some of you probably aren't going to like what I'm about to say. Seriously, the government of Israel and the country of Israel is not the nation of Israel in the Bible. Plain and simple. The Zionist government in Israel is not the Israel of the Bible. Now that I'm not saying that there aren't people of the Bible there in Israel. I'm just saying that the government itself is not what people want, or what the Bible says, I should say. And here's something else. And this is a huge change for me, because I used to be very supportive of Israel. But if you look at it historically, Israel has not been a good ally to the United States. And I can't fault the Israeli government for looking out for Israel, the people of Israel looking out for Israel. I would expect nothing less. I mean, and it doesn't matter who it is, what country, China, Russia, Ukraine, Britain, Germany. I can't fault a country for looking out for its own well-being. And if we're honest about it, the Israelis have been under probably the greatest threat, greater threat than anyone since the inception of the state in 1947. So yeah, they've done some things, but they're not good allies. They're allies of necessity, because it's the only representative democracy in the Middle East. Everybody else, and it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny that a state or a nation like 1/3 the size of Texas with 9 million people in it is an existential threat to the entire Muslim world. It's kind of weird that small tiny thing, and I understand why what happened. If I was in Israel's shoes, I would have done the same exact thing. In fact, I probably would have done it sooner, to be honest with you. So yes, it was a calculated risk, and everything that the pundits have been saying negative about it has turned out to be not true. Israel was able to pull it off. Same thing goes with President Trump and bombing the nuclear sites. Now, there's some commentary today that the strikes may not have been as successful as they first thought, but still, it was a decisive decision. I'm not sure that I completely agree with it. I don't want to play Monday morning quarterback or armchair quarterback on it. I want to stay out of these wars. I do not want us to get involved in another war physically. There's a part of me that does not see what happened as far as the Americans bombing the nuclear sites. I don't see that as war. I see that as taking care of a problem that's been a thorn in our side for the last 46 years, since 1979. The very first action of the Iranian regime was to take Americans hostage. They killed 243 of my fellow Marines and sailors in October of 1983. And even though I wasn't a Marine at the time, those guys were still my brothers. I served with several people that were there. In fact, the one staff NCO I had was the only survivor out of his section when the barracks got blown up there at the airport. And he had a little PTSD from it. I served with him in 80. He came there in 89, and he still had a little PTSD from it. When he talked about it, you could tell a little bit of survivor's guilt. But whether we've been at war with them since then is kind of a moot issue, because they've been at war with us. And whenever you look at the situation,
they've killed more U.S. citizens than any other country since it can terrorism wise. Yes, that's absolutely true. Well, I don't know. The Saudis have killed more Americans than the Iranians have. Yeah, they were talking about it. Pete Mundo was talking about that this morning. And I was listening to it, and I was listening to the numbers that were coming out. And I was like, oh my gosh, because I had never really put a lot of thought into that. And then I was listening to it. And then, when I thought it was very interesting on the way back home, I was listening. Mark Levin was on, and he had a guy on that was a lone soldier. He's an American citizen. Mm-hmm. So I did not know that all Jews all over the world could go and fight for Israel.
Oh yeah.
And so you go in, you fight, you dedicate. They call you lone soldier because you have no family there. And he was a paratrooper in Israel. And so you just have to be Jewish.
Well, and there's some there. Yes, you can if you're Jewish in America, you can go fight or join the Israeli Defense Forces. So, gosh, somebody help me here.
You go ahead.
There's a congressman that was a member of the IDF. He's Jewish, and he went over there and he served in the IDF. Now he's serving in Congress, and he made a comment, and he's a Republican too, which really bothered me. He made a comment about the anti-ICE people flying foreign flags in America when he has an Israeli flag outside of his office in the halls of Congress. Kind of hypocritical, if you ask me. And not kind of, no, it's completely hypocritical, And I'm sorry, if you're serving in the halls of Congress, your loyalty should be to the United States of America. Actually, truth be told, from where I'm sitting, your loyalty should be to the state. Brian Mast, there it is. That's the guy's name. I think that's who it is. Yeah, your loyalty should be God, family, state, and then country. If you're, as far as I'm concerned, if you're not a Christian, whatever God you see, whatever your God you believe in, but flying an Israeli flag in the halls of Congress is not too terribly far removed from flying an LGBTQ flag or a BLM flag or a Palestinian flag or a Ukrainian flag, period, as far as I'm concerned. So there it is. Again, I think President Trump, I probably would not have done it the way he did it, but he did it and it worked. And I think the history books, no matter how hard they try to paint him as being wrong on this, I think history is gonna go down as saying that he did a service to the world by stopping them. Because I've said it before and I'll say it again. When somebody says they want to kill you, and the Iranians say death to America and they want to kill people, when they say that, you have to take them at their word. You may not want to, but you got to take them at their word, and you got to do it. You got to do it. And Trump, for all his pluses and minuses, he did it. He did it. Okay. So listen, I got some more things to talk about. Let's get off the Israel thing. Kind of let my feelings be known there.
Yeah, because I don't know that you cut me off. Control freak, finish.
Oh, apparently I'm a control freak.
You cut me off.
Angela's upset at me.
I'm upset. That's why it's so hard to talk politics with you.
Okay. So let's talk about what's going on in our country with all these riots and stuff.
Are they still rioting?
Yes, they are still rioting. In fact, they have been attacking the ICE center in Seattle and being all kinds of bad.
Why don't we deport all of them? Let's send all of them over to Iran.
Did you guys hear that? Angela, instead of deporting the Mexicans and the illegals, she wants to deport the rioters. There's some
a lot of the rioters aren't American citizens.
There's some wisdom there. I'm not going to lie about it. But I don't want to talk about the riots themselves, but here's something that's been weighing on my mind for the last couple of weeks. Look at the way the liberals and the parasite class have been behaving and are behaving now. 2020, the riots there, it's only gotten worse, right? And look at the way they're behaving when society and law and order are still nominally in place in our country. We've still got laws, and we're still, even though they try to make it a party of man instead of a party of laws, they're still in place. And civil society for most of the country still exists. But they're putting out calls for violence. Politicians are doing it even. They feel so emboldened that even politicians are calling for violence against those that disagree with their worldview. They're committing violence itself against the people that disagree with them. Political assassinations. I mean, the two Jewish kids that got murdered in D.C. and then this nutcase up in Michigan that shot the state representatives and killed her and her husband and the other two people. The random acts of violence and the looting that's going on. They're doing this all right now whenever society and the rule of law is still in place. Just take for 1 second. Take for 1 second here. Now imagine how those people will behave. And this is how they will behave, not how they could behave. This is how they will behave. Imagine how they will behave if one of these two things takes place. They get elected and they have absolute power again, control the House, the Senate, and the executive branch. Or B, if society collapses on a large scale and there is no rule of law. Imagine how these people are going to behave. It's a scary thought. And I know this is a black pill, but the reason I'm feeding this black pill right now, because I want this to be a reminder as to why we do what we do, why we build community, why we look for food independence, why we become modernly self-sufficient. The reason why we do this is so that they cannot use these things as weapons against us, and they will. They're already doing it. They're already falling back on the impeachment ploy against Trump. And, you know, they've got less than 20% approval rating, and they're going back to the same thing they did before in the first administration. You know, Trump's got more likability or more approval than any president in quite a while. And this is the way they're behaving. So if you think that they'll treat you any better than they treat him or any of the people in his administration, then you're kind of whistling past this graveyard. Ghost, there's somebody we haven't seen in a while. How you doing, brother? Hope everything's going good for you out there in the on the East Coast. To figure out how the actual fascists are in the I can't read that word. I don't have my glasses on. Scapafario, that sounds, is that the word I'm looking at? Anyway, I get what you're saying. Yeah, but it's only fascism if we're doing it. If we're doing something that they don't like, it's fascism. If it's something that they like, it's not fascism. Just plain and simple. Scenario. Okay, well that makes a lot more sense. So I'm not going crazy. Yeah, you know, they do this. Another big news. This one in my mind is huge because it's escalating stuff. But good guys with guns stopped a mass shooting in a church in Cross Point, Michigan this week. In fact, the guy was going to shoot up the church. He got out of his truck with his AR and his duffel bag, and he started walking across the parking lot. And one of the church parishioners actually hit him with his truck and knocked him down. And the guy jumped up and started shooting at the truck, and that distracted him long enough that a church member who was acting as a security guard was able to pull on him. Actually, there were two of them, and they shot him, and he ultimately died. And I'll be honest with you, I don't even know the guy's name, and if I did, I would not say it out loud because I'm not going to give him any notoriety. But this is, you know, Christians are the most persecuted religious people on the planet right now. Across the world, Christians are being martyred left and right. It's starting to happen here in the United States. You know, it starts with church burnings. It starts with people openly dehumanizing Christians and belittling them, and it ends up with people going into churches and shooting them up. And I guarantee you, this guy that did the shooting, guarantee you, he was not a Republican. He was not a conservative, and he was not a patriot. You know, in his mind, maybe he thought he was a patriot, but a patriot wouldn't go doing what he's doing. Yeah, a little chlorine in the gene pool, if you would. Local prepper, what's up? So yeah, so again, I wish they would have had cameras on the outside because I really would like to seen the guy in the pickup truck peg the active shooter. That would have been something to see. You know, so if you're a member of a church, and here's something else that I found out this afternoon. Michigan, churches are what they call a sensitive site. So you cannot legally carry in a church unless the supervising person, which I'm assuming in most churches it's going to be the pastor, maybe the board of deacons or whatever, says that you can carry them. So realistically, if the state of Michigan decides that they want to charge those two guys for carrying in the church, they probably could. And if it was 2021, 2022, they probably would. Antonetti says, happening here in Australia, everything is against Christians. Well, you know what? When you're over the target and you're getting flack, you know you're doing it right. So that's all I got to say about that. So I hope they keep offending people so much that they cause them to go nuts. I mean, seriously. So yep. So again, as I was going to say, if you're going to church, talk to your pastor. You should set up a security team and have some security protocols. And there's actually, gosh, if somebody knows the answer to this question, post it in the comments. There's a YouTube channel that specifically is geared towards church security. And for the life of me, I can't remember the guy's name. But it's actually, if you're looking for site security videos, physical security of sites and how to defend them, or not defend them, but how to guard against active shooters and stuff. Even if it's not a church you're dealing with, it's still a good channel, because what he talks about is very fundamental to the physical security of your site. And if anybody knows the name, I'll see if I can't find the link, and I'll put it in the comments after we're done here, assuming I remember. So yeah, do that if you're going to church. What else do we got here? What else do we have here? Oh, here's a good one. Here is a good one. So the state of New Jersey passed a law saying that the different townships in New Jersey have to set aside, there it is, you got it, church security. There you go. I should have known that. The state of New Jersey passed a law that the townships and cities in New Jersey have to set aside a certain percentage of their housing for low-income housing. And as a result, towns and cities that do not have low-income housing have been buying up land left and right to build this, to comply with this new law. Well, there's a family in, where is it? Cranberry Township in Middlesex County, New Jersey. And the board voted unanimously in May to approve a plan to acquire through eminent domain Andy Henry's family farm to meet the state mandated affordable housing requirements. And if anybody's interested, I am reading this off of the American Stewards website. They've got a link to this thing because it falls in line with what they do over there at American Stewards. So anyway, so the Henry family has owned this property for 175 years. They've had a working farm on this. How many acres is it? On 21 acres. They've had a working farm there for 175 years. And the township offered them $20 to $30 million for their land. They said, no, we want our farm. It is smack dab in the middle of the city. It's surrounded by warehouses and industrial, but they are holding on to it. So anyway, the township decided that they were going to invoke eminent domain and seize the property. Well, here's the twist. This is the good twist here. The secretary or the director of the USDA, let me see if I can get her name. What is her name? Anyway, the director of the USDA came out in support of this family and said, Brooke Rollins is her name, said that the Federal Department of Agriculture was in contact with the Henrys and would support them in their legal fight. She also posted an excellent story written by the Farm Journal that's worth reading. And she says, well, in this particular case, while this particular case is a city eminent domain issue, we at the USDA are exploring every legal option to help. The Secretary Rollins has set up a portal for landowners who have been the target of government overreach. So if you go to the link I posted here, and go to that, and it's got the link for the portal if you know anybody that's being abused by local governments or state governments or the federal government, and they'll open it up. But I think it's awesome that the federal government is finally fighting for the citizens and not for the government and the big interest groups, the lobbyists. So you know, and don't get used to it, seriously, because at best we got 3 more years of Trump, or what, 3.5 years more of Trump, and maybe 8 years of Vance or somebody else. But it's going to go away at some point, guys. So we need to fight the fight now while we got somebody backing us up. Has me looking for the catch. Yeah, you know what? It's the government, so there may be a catch that I'm not seeing yet. I'd like to think that they're actually doing something to curtail the overreach of these different governments and the petty tyrants that we interact with on a daily basis. I'd really like to think that. On the same note, on a similar note, not the same note, similar note, state of Kansas, the state legislature got something right a couple weeks ago. So they passed a law saying that dog trainers or animal trainers, you know, businesses that train animals, were no longer subject to no warrant searches of their property. So the state of Kansas back in the 80s passed a law, and the director of ag and somebody else, some other bigwig in the government, were like, yeah, we have no idea why you're doing this. But they said, if you are an animal trainer, you are subject to no warrant searches. The government can come in and inspect your properties any time it wants, and you have 30 minutes to comply, or you will be fined. And the fine was something like $100,000 a day or something like that. And they would go away, they would find you, and then they would set up a time in like a week and a half down the road, but you're still getting fined because you're not being
searching for what?
Well, and so Angela asked, searching for what? And that's the question. That's the big question. They were looking for. I know what they were doing because it happened in the late 80s.
What were they looking for?
It came from all the puppy mills that were in Kansas and Missouri.
Dog trainers.
But the logic behind the law came from Johnson County, which is extremely liberal.
Of course.
It came from the big liberal places in Kansas, and people, the puppy mills were rampant in eastern Kansas, western Missouri, actually all across Missouri. And so they wanted to crack down on it. They wanted to do something that made them feel good. So they passed this law, and what it did was it put people that were actual animal trainers, horse trainers, dog trainers, those type of people were being subject to these searches, because most of these people that train these animals breed them too. And so they were puppy mills as far as the liberals are concerned, because I don't know if you grow or if you raise animals to sell them like that, then you're a puppy mill. I don't know.
You were just looking for their share of money, I guarantee you.
Well, and that's
Lenexa just passed a city ordinance that, so now all those nice houses that are sitting up and around are now getting a 500 apartment building in them, smack dab in the middle of them, and they're going to continue. You want to know why? Because they set their budget. They need a $30 million new city hall, and they need
they just built the
$5 billion for something else.
They just built the new city hall, so
$30 million. That's what that is. And so they have to move all these apartment buildings in and get these lower class people in these apartments in there next to these $1 million houses so that they can get tax dollars.
Did you
all about money?
Put a 1 in there if you heard what she said. Put a 2 if you want me to go over it, because what she said is 100% correct, and it's endemic of governments all over the place.
They're doing the same crap here.
But anyway, so the state legislator basically threw that law out, which is good because it opens the door for anybody else that's subject to no warrant searches, Fourth Amendment violations. So they did something right. They don't do a lot of things right. So Skanes heard you. Everybody heard you. So everybody heard what you said. Okay.
That's what you're moving to, Skanes.
Yes, you hear that, Skanes?
Join the fight.
You need to get up here and join the fight, is what she says. Okay. Now here's something fun. This is funny. Okay, hang on. Let me share the screen. Present, share screen. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, can you guys see that? All right, now let me turn the audio on. Okay, the audio's on. Okay. Hit play.
People are diapers, and I'm not a baby.
Can you guys hear that?
And you're wearing a diaper. Well, baby, wear a diaper. And you're wearing a diaper. Well, I'm not a baby. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. I meant you're wearing a diaper. I'm not a baby. You're wearing a diaper. I'm not a baby, though. Yes, you're wearing a diaper. Well, I'm not a baby. You're wearing a diaper. I'm not. Well, I'm not even a baby, though. But you're wearing a diaper. You can't say but. That's a bad word. Well, I didn't say real but. Just pretend.
Okay, guys. So if you couldn't read the labels on there, the little boy was labeled conservative and the little girl was labeled liberal. And to me, the funniest part is at the end when the little boy knife hands her. And if you don't know what a knife hand, look it up online, because he knife hands her when he's making the point, which was hilarious. And somebody shared that on a forum that I'm on, and one of the things that got me about it, there's something there. Where is it? Oops, hang on a second, guys. There's something there that kind of got me. I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. Just that's why I'm going to this stuff. So the little girl is obviously she's using her feelings. She's a feeling-based argument. She's kind of using circular logic there. When he disagreed with her, she became aggressive and started yelling at him. There was a lot of finger pointing. She became angry with him, and she redirected whenever he used the word but. So there's a whole bunch of boxes checked right there. Now, it occurred to me that if this little girl can land a husband with affluence, when she grows up, she will become awful. And that's affluent, white, female, liberal. And it's amazing. It's amazing to me that at 2-3-year-old, I don't know how old those kids were. It's amazing that you can look at that behavior and look at grown women in America and put the same thing on them. If you watch any liberal argument, it's the same thing. And they get online and they lecture people. And hat tip to Carl Benjamin from Akkad Daily, because he is the one that turned me on to the acronym AWFL, affluent, white, female, liberal. I said it last week. I'm going to say it again. White female liberals are the true threat to democracy, because they are the ones that push degeneracy and and craziness the most. They are experts in everything, and they objective reality has no meaning to them. It's however they feel, or however they want, this utopian vision that they have of the world where everything works exactly like they want it to. And if it doesn't, then they become angry and they start screaming and throwing a temper tantrum. So if you have anybody like that in your life, I feel sorry for you. I hope that you're able to keep your calm with them and try to educate them and make them see things from a different point of view, because it's not, number one, it's not healthy. It's not healthy for anybody. And number two, again, it's to the point now to where it's becoming dangerous, plain and simple. Okay. Well, listen, guys, we're hitting right at the hour and 20-minute mark. Do you guys have anything you guys want to discuss? Any questions you want to ask? Anything you want? Oh, Jane put it 2 down. So going back to what Angela said. So there's a city called Lenexa here in Kansas. It's over by Kansas City. It's part of the
Johnson County.
It's in Johnson County, Kansas. It's part of the Kansas City metro area. They just passed I don't know if it is a law or a developmental thing. Anyway, they're building a 500 unit apartment building right in the middle of this neighborhood that's got like $1-2 million houses in it. And the whole reason why they are doing this is because they're trying to get more tax revenue coming in, because they built a $30 million city hall, and instead of spending less, they want to get more tax revenue. And the reason why they don't want to spend less, and they don't want to listen to people and not raise their property taxes, because it affects their bond rating. And they want to keep their bond rating high at the expense of the citizens of Lenexa. And again, that goes back. It goes back to what I say about governments. You know, the number one priority of any governmental emergency plan is what's called continuity of government. And that's what that means for anybody that doesn't know. That means keeping the government running and making sure that it's in place when everything is said and done. So every emergency plan that's put in place is geared for that. And if it helps the people in the process, good. If it doesn't help the people in the process, well, just too bad. Too bad. It's all about the government. And here's another simple fact of government. Governments never willingly shrink. There's not been a government in the history of America or history of the world that purposely decided to cut back and curtail its power, if you will. Anytime it's happened, it's been due to outside forces, threat of revolution, financial stuff. They've never willingly done it, and they probably never will. Len says, Rush, affluenza, rich people feeling guilty and all knowing. Yes, I miss the Rahamushi. I can't talk tonight. Miss him on the radio. I'm not gonna lie. He didn't. How do I put this? I didn't listen to him because he said stuff I liked. I listened to him because he said stuff that ran through my head that I could never get out as nicely as he did, as well thought out. So he was a mouthpiece for the ideas and the stuff rolling around in my brain pan. Yeah, so there it is. So we covered a lot of ground tonight, covered Iran, covered the protests, we covered awful people, covered local government and how they abuse people. And again, guys, like Angela said off screen, it's happening all over. If you really stop and look where you live, I guarantee you're going to be able to find examples of exactly what she was talking about. Maybe not as egregious, maybe not as open, but you'll be able to find them because they happen all over the place all the time. Okay, guys, listen. I really enjoyed doing the permaculture, or not the permaculture, the preparedness continuum, the prepper homesteader continuum videos. I hope you can go back if you haven't watched them. Go back. There's a playlist. I will put it at the end of this once this video goes live on YouTube. I'll put the link at the end. So if you want to, you can go watch that. I've got one more video or one more live in the Second Chance to Say No series, and tomorrow night we're going to go over how the World Economic Forum is not trying to take your garden away from you, and how that is a truthful statement. I hope you guys can join me. It's going to be 8 o'clock tomorrow, Wednesday the 25th. Come join me. It'll be the last one. And basically what I'm doing is I'm showing you another example of how the propaganda and psyops work, and what actually happens. So after that, if you guys have any ideas, if you got any kind of video series you would like me to do, go ahead and put it down in the comments. After this is over, go do that. Send me an email, therealgrumpyacres@gmail.com. Send me an email. Let me know what you want. I've got some ideas. I've got one really good idea in my mind, but it is not a prepared. Well, technically it can be considered a preparedness thing, but it's not your typical prepared grape harvest. Don't forget medical. Yeah, you know what? You're funny. Yeah, I actually thought about you the other day because one of the series I want to do is I want to revisit the full spectrum preparedness videos, because I never did finish that series, and I thought I would just start afresh and do a video on each one of the 10 aspects. Just do a little bit more in-depth thing, since we talked about them on the preparedness spectrum thing, or preparedness continuum. So I won't forget medical this time, I promise. But yeah, the one video series is not your typical preparedness or homesteading video, and I'm not quite sure that Grumpy Acres YouTube channel is the right place to do it. I may do it over on Rumble, and then do shorts to point to Rumble and all. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But if you guys got any ideas you want for video series, I am game. I'm willing to learn stuff and share my experiences with you, and make it good. I want this channel to be something that people can share with other people. Not necessarily the channel, because let's be honest, these videos can be kind of cringy sometimes. Not the best production, not the best speaker, but the ideas I think are pretty solid. So, share the ideas that you get here with people. Well, thank you, Auntie Nettie. I would love to. So Homestead Oz, they're really good friends of ours. We got to know them over the past couple of years, and they don't have the YouTube presence like they used to. But we've talked about the homesteading community and the preparedness community in Australia, and I would love to do some videos with some Aussies, because you guys are a year and a half ahead of us on all the bad stuff that they're doing.
But we also understand why they don't.
Yes, Angela just pointed out, we also understand why they pulled back, and why people in the preparedness community in Australia may not want to talk about things that are going on. We completely understand that. Actually, what I'd like to do, hey, Bobby, are you still on here? Actually, what I think would be really fun is to get some Aussie preparedness people and do a Without Rule of Law live stream with the Aussie bent. I don't know. Well, we'll have to.
There's a lot of words in that part game they cannot use. It will get shut down.
No. We'll figure something out. We'll figure something. Title kind of what? What can you do if you live in a city, suburb, people that don't have land, that sort of thing? I can do that. I can do that because we were there. We lived that for the longest time. We lived in a little cracker box house, 1,100 square feet, and then we lived on a nice suburban lot.
1,100 square feet? Where'd the extra 200 feet come from?
The laundry room and the back porch.
No. That doesn't count. And that was not a laundry room, it was a porch.
Well, it was a porch.
Don't
Yeah.
even try it. It was a cracker box, 900 square feet.
Okay, Angela says that the back porch where the laundry and storage was, that doesn't count because it was only 900 square feet. Listen, don't rain on my parade.
You're not getting away with that. Lies.
You know what, Len? I will. You know what? That's a good idea. I think a lot of people would benefit from that, because that is one of the things we hear a lot of whenever we were out doing the festivals, was I just don't have the space. I can't do what you guys do because I don't have the space. I don't have the land. So, okay. Well, okay. You know what? I'm going to start. I will develop that one. I like that idea. Listen, guys. As always, if you want to help the channel, number one, comment down below. As soon as this is done, comment on the video. If you're watching this video after the fact, go ahead and post something down there. Even if you disagree with what I say, put it down there. I like hearing other points of view. Just be polite. You know, I don't take kindly to people that are nasty and make personal attacks when there's no need to. And it seems like a lot of liberals do that to me.
Because they're keyboard warriors.
But again, if you want to help the channel, help yourself. Go to the affiliate links and get something to help you be more modernly self-sufficient or food independent. Subscribe to the channel if you're not a subscriber. That helps us. Most importantly, guys, when you wake up tomorrow morning, you should be in a better place than you were this morning, and you should be ready to go out and live a life done free. Okay, guys, take care. And we are...
Want to make the most of your harvest? With a Harvest Right freeze dryer, you can preserve garden produce, build a reliable emergency food supply, and create healthy snacks for your family, pets, even your next camping trip. Unlike traditional methods, freeze drying retains flavor, color, and over 90% of the food's nutrients without shrinking or toughening your meals. From homesteaders to hunters, this is the ultimate food preservation tool. Ready to level up your preparedness and pantry? Click the affiliate link in the video description or scan the QR code and see why thousands are turning to freeze drying.